Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on WION. My name is Mohammed Saleh. Now, the results of the general elections 2024 have changed the very nature of Indian politics. We've entered into some uncharted territory where Narendra Modi no longer has an absolute majority. He'll now have to rely on his coalition partners to form the next government. The Congress party, which has managed to win 99 seats this time round, believes that this is the election where the opposition has made its comeback. So what does this electoral verdict mean for the people of India? Now, to discuss this, we're being joined by senior Congress leader Dr Shashi Tharoor, who has just been elected to the Lok Sabha for the fourth time. Now, Dr Tharoor, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us here on WION. First of all, congratulations on winning your Thiruvananthapuram seat. So how does it feel to have become an MP for a fourth time?
Well, it's relieved to begin with, because to be honest, this was a squeaker. We never expected such a cliffhanger, because we had been on the ground and really seen a tremendous amount of support for us across the constituency. But when the votes started being counted, 6 weeks after they were cast, suddenly there a sort of different picture emerged. And at one point, my opponent from the BJP, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, held a lead. And not a small one. It climbed up to 23,000 at peak. But fortunately, in the last few rounds, that reversed, and I was able to emerge winning by 16,000 plus. And that's something that we can all be happy about, because honestly, this is a state where a BJP victory was considered unthinkable. And now suddenly in two constituencies, they did very well, and one they actually managed to win. So we have to give all credit to the BJP for the efforts they have made and the spirited fight their candidates have mounted.
Now, the Bharatiya Janata Party has managed to increase its vote share from 12.5% to about 16%. That's an increase of about 3.5%. So how does the Congress party view the steady increase in BJP's vote share in the state of Kerala, a state where the BJP had very little presence and where the literacy rate is 100%?
Well, 13 to 16, Mohammed, is not a huge gaining of ground. In fact, I've always argued that the BJP's failure to recognize that the communal card has certain limits is once again apparent here. Because what's happening with them is that you're looking at one victory in Thrissur, where the candidate actually appealed on a very strongly secular platform to minorities. He was not interested in playing the communal card, and he was also, of course, a very well-known movie star, a celebrity, the anchor of the Malayalam equivalent of Kaun Banega Crorepati, and he had all that kind of following as well. And in no way can it be said that his victory was a victory for the classic BJP platform of minority bashing that we saw being conducted across northern India during this election. Now, to my mind, if the BJP recognizes that to do well in Kerala, they will need to change, only then can you expect it to go up. In fact, otherwise, if anything, if they come up with candidates who are fire-breathing, shall we say, communal individuals, we're going to see once again the same sort of problem that we have seen before.
Now, Dr. Tharoor, a lot of political pundits are saying that Congress seems to be gaining ground again in the north, but in the south, it appears to be ceding space to the BJP. So how does the Congress party intend to actually change this?
I take your point. First of all, I think the question has too much of a generalization built into it. Because while in some northern states the BJP did lose ground, in other states they did rather well. I mean, we were surprised, for example, that they won every seat in Delhi, every seat in Himachal, every seat in Madhya Pradesh. So the BJP can also look back and see their successes of their traditional campaigning in the north. In the south, again, there's too much generalization because there were local factors. Karnataka, we will have to analyze in much more detail. I'm sure my colleagues there are going to go into depth to figure out what went wrong, because we certainly expected to do better, given the popularity of our government and the measures it's undertaken. In Andhra Pradesh, of course, it's really a reflection of the popularity of their allies and the anti-incumbency against the existing state government of the YSRCP of Jagan Mohan Reddy. So there were very specific factors that explain why the BJP did better in Andhra. I would give much more of the credit to the message of Chandrababu Naidu and the TDP than I would give to our to the BJP itself. And in Kerala, as I said, a rise from 13 to 16 is hardly a threatening rise, because at 16%, you don't normally win any seats. And it took very special circumstances in Thrissur for a movie star celebrity candidate with a secular appeal to actually win a seat. So I think the BJP still has to do a lot of introspection about its appeal in places like Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu also, they drew a blank, and a fairly significant blank, in that the candidates they were touting as having a chance to win all lost by more than a lakh of votes. So it's not that easy for the BJP to bring its message to the South, where we don't have this strong sense of majority and minority. We don't have a strong sense of the local cultures are far too strong for us to be able to play, for BJP to be able to play the kind of card they played in the North.
When you look at the final numbers that have actually been put out by the electoral verdict this time round, is this election more about BJP actually having lost its steam because of anti-incumbency, rather than the Congress having done anything on its own during its campaigning and in the promises that is made, that has resulted in the BJP actually losing a lot of the seats and the Congress having gained some of the seats?
Well, look, the BJP knew exactly what they were facing, and yet they very proudly told everybody that they were going to increase their seats from 64 to the 70s. They told you, they told the media, they told the opposition, they made speeches saying this. So they were actually anticipating doing far better in UP than they did. And at no stage did they think they were going to actually lose the number of seats they lost. For the BJP to go from a 64 or 65 seat party in UP to one where the opposition has a majority of the seats in UP with 42 has been, I'm sure, a very chastening experience for them. And I do believe that they will have to be doing some very serious introspection there.
Now, the election results this time round haven't given a clear and a complete majority to Narendra Modi. So how different do you think the Modi-led NDA government will be this time round?
The fact that they do not have a majority in the Lok Sabha, and they can only govern at the sufferance of the allies, is a new thing for them. Mr. Modi has been used to having his own way. He was able to impose demonetization without even consulting his cabinet, let alone his finance minister. He was able to announce the COVID lockdown, the most stringent in the world, at a few hours' notice without consulting anybody, including state chief ministers who had to implement it. This is a man and a government that's used to getting its own way without bothering to consult anybody. Suddenly, they're going to have to realize that they can't pass a single piece of legislation without getting several allied parties on board. They can't pass their budget without getting the allies on board. They can't take any major policy initiatives without getting their allies on board. It's going to be a very different BJP government that we're facing. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they manage to perform after the kind of style of governance we've seen for the last 10 years. I hope, too, that they will treat Parliament with greater respect, because you're not just going to be an insignificant, inconsequential, and divided opposition. The India Alliance alone is 234 people who will constitute a very robust opposition to the BJP. They think they can get their own way on everything. So we need more consultation. It's good for Indian democracy that this result has come this way.
Now, Dr. Tharoor, this is a question that a lot of people, of course, want to know an answer for. Is the Congress party talking to Nitish Kumar and Chandrababu Naidu? And this also is a bit speculative at this moment. If things don't work out for the NDA, would the Congress be interested in staking a claim to form the next government as the leader of the India alliance?
I'll take a pass on that question simply because I'm not the one involved in making that decision. If it were to come to the working committee, then as a member, I would have a view. But I think at this point, we'll have to move very fast. So if such an option were to open up, the Congress president and a handful of advisors will have to take a call. There won't be time for any extensive consultations. But from what we're seeing in the news so far of today's meetings, it does look as if the NDA is going to go ahead and seek a mandate from the Rashtrapati. And I think they're entitled to, given the fact that they had a pre-poll alliance and they're not stitching something together right now. So I giving a personal view, I don't think the Congress needs to challenge that outcome. If they have a majority, there will have to be, of course, a confidence vote in the Parliament. And if they pass that, they can certainly go ahead and form a government. And if they've kept their allies together, they have the numbers to pass it. So let's be sensible and say that after this outcome and the numbers before us, our duty is to provide the country with a sincere, robust, hardworking, and committed opposition. And we'll do that as best we can.
The year 2024 has brought back coalition politics to the center of India again. Do you think coalition governments are actually good for India, or do they just result in political instability?
Mr. Narasimha Rao had a minority government with outside support. Mr. Vajpayee had, all the governments, Deva Gowda's government, the government of Inder Gujral, and then Vajpayee Saab's two governments were all coalition governments with levels of outside support. And then Dr. Manmohan Singh's was a coalition government too. And they collectively presided over the best years for the Indian economy. So very clearly, there's been no problem with coalition governments. Secondly, yes, coalition governments risk falling if you don't actually keep everyone happy within them. But if you do keep everyone happy and you are accommodative and conciliatory, as Mr. Vajpayee was in his second government and as the Congress Party Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, was in his two governments, then you've got a winning formula which is far more democratic in its appeal to people than the formula of my way or the highway, which is what we've seen from Mr. Modi.
Now, Dr. Tharoor, one of the things that is being talked about is the manner in which the Congress has responded to the results. Now, let's in fact be honest here. The Congress has managed to win just 99 seats. So are the Congress celebrations justified? Because it does seem that Congress is celebrating, even though quite clearly it is the BJP-led NDA which has crossed the majority mark.
Oh, I'd say very simply that at the moment we have a government that has won the election in a way that looks like a defeat. And we have an opposition that has been defeated but feels like a victory. I mean, that's really the way the country is looking at the moment. Yes, the Congress Party got only 99 seats, but we won't be saying only because, as you know, in the last two elections, we were considerably lower than that at 44 and 52. So 99 certainly feels a remarkable improvement and shows the nation we are back on the path of ascendancy. Secondly, we were able to strike and build a very effective India alliance, which has 234 seats in parliament, and which has really shown the value of robust regional parties that are strong in their states and that can stand up to the BJP, whether it's Akhilesh Yadav Samajwadi with 37 seats in UP, whether it's Mamata Banerjee in Bengal, who's won 29 after the BJP was loudly proclaiming that she would take a beating and lose seats rather than gain them, or the DMK in Tamil Nadu, which won every single seat it contested. What you're looking at is a very strong opposition. Why should we not be in a celebratory mood? We believe that we can stand up to whatever undemocratic ideas the BJP might have planned to fling at the nation. I don't think that without serious consultation and cooperation with the opposition, that they can get some of their far-flung ideas through. And if they want to have a uniform civil code, they're going to have to consult the opposition on what that's going to contain. If they want to have one nation, one election, I think they're going to be in for a second thinking on that, because I don't think the opposition's inclined to agree with them. So there are things now that will simply be different from the way the BJP assumed it would function this time on the basis of their assumptions the first two times. And that is very good for Indian democracy, Mohammed. We're looking at a country where the vast diversities and shades of opinion that exist will have to be accommodated and taken into account. That can only be good for India's progress and India's future.
Final question, Dr. Tharoor. Now, one of the aspects which the Narendra Modi-led government had taken a lot of pride in is the manner in which it had conducted its foreign policy. Now, you've been a Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in the UPA government. So in your assessment, what do you think have been the hits and misses of the Narendra Modi government so far as foreign policy of India has been concerned?
It's been a very, very mixed bag, I'm afraid, Mohammed. I will give credit to Mr. Modi for the personal energy he's brought to prime ministerial diplomacy, his extensive travels. I will acknowledge that with some countries, notably in the Gulf states, our relations have never been better, that he has made some serious efforts, and that's to be acknowledged. But on the negative side of the ledger, there are serious problems. Number one, there is the fact that in the Western liberal democratic world, India's reputation has plunged into the abyss because of Mr. Modi's domestic policies and rhetoric, that India is seen as a land that treats and abuses its minorities badly, a land of Islamophobic language being used, at the very highest levels of the government. You're seeing a country who's been unable to manage its domestic politics, one which respected international bodies is downgrading as a democracy. And in one famous case of the VDEM Institute, the Variety Democracy Institute, we've been dismissed as an electoral autocracy rather than as quite simply the democracy we claim to be proud of being. All of this has done India an enormous amount of damage. Secondly, we have proved extremely weak-kneed when it's come to China, which after 46 years in which we had a mutual understanding with the Chinese that both armies could patrol on 65 disputed sites where we couldn't agree on the border, but both armies were patrolling back and forth with mutual understanding. Mr. Modi's government has presided over a period where the Chinese have simply sat in 26 sites, immovable, constructed enduring presences, and left India's army fuming, with one attempt made by unarmed Indian soldiers to ask them, what are you doing and why haven't you left, resulting in 20 Jawans being killed. And not only has India been unable to do anything effective about this, but in fact, while this has been going on, the same Modi government has allowed our import dependence on China to keep rising to the point where we are now almost $200 billion on the receiving end of Chinese exports. That's been a colossal failure. Third, we have a mixed bag in the neighborhood where relations with a number of our neighbors have plunged to low levels. Maldives is in terrible shape. Sri Lanka is often worse than better. Nepal could have been very much better than it is. We can point to Bangladesh with some happiness, but Pakistan and China, of course, remain severely problematic. And so we can't say that we have a great record in our immediate neighborhood, which is actually very important because a troubled neighborhood can also drive away investors. So there are all of these issues. And finally, the rhetoric of the government has failed to draw a clear enough line between their political domestic objectives at home and the need to send the right signals abroad. So we are seeing needlessly inflammatory language used to stir up the true believing bhakts in the BJP within the country, which is also heard abroad and does not play. So all of these things mean that we have a very mixed record in foreign policy, which I'm sorry to say, the BJP likes to gloss over when they go around calling themselves a Vishwa Guru. I don't think there are too many governments in the world that consider India in its present form of conduct a Vishwa Guru.
Well, Dr. Tharoor, thank you very much indeed, sir, for taking time out and speaking to us here on WION.
Thank you, Mohammed. All the best. Good evening.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.